Welcome to Get Your Spirit in Shape, United Methodist Communications and UMC.org's podcast to help keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joe Iovino. At the beginning of the new year, many of us are thinking about health goals. This is the year we're going to eat better, exercise more, and generally get healthier. So to help with those goals, I consulted with a public health physician and a nurse who just happened to work for Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church, Dr. Olusimbo Ige and Sabrina Rodgers. For fun, I asked them to review some of the remedies in John Wesley's health guide called Primitive Physique. Sabrina Rodgers responded to a suggestion of using honey on a bee sting.
I think honey, I've heard it helps with inflammation. So a bee sting, being that you have that inflammation, I think he may have been onto something.
We also talked about some of his tips for staying healthy. Dr. Ige likes his advice that walking is the best exercise.
Exercises need to be consistent, need to be part of our lives, and a lot of people find it hard when they do something really unusual to stay with it, and walking is something that we can all stay with.
Then we got more practical. We talked about things you and I can do today to get healthier.
I would say incorporate more fruits and vegetables, those green leafy vegetables, making sure that when you sit down to a meal, it's very colorful.
Then finally, we talked about the things the United Methodist Church is doing to help all of us stay healthy.
We're Methodists. In our DNA, we already have health as part of who we are.
So if you're thinking about gaining some healthy habits in the new year, listen in on this fun and informative conversation. Today my guests are Dr. Olusimbo Ige, who is the Executive Director of Global Health Unit with General Board of Global Ministries, and Sabrina Rodgers, who's the United States Health Program Manager for the General Health Unit of the General Board of Global Ministries. Did I get those things right?
Kind of, sort of, but not really.
Okay, so how about if I instead let you introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit about how you came to get involved in the Global Health Initiative.
I'm Sabrina Rodgers, the U.S. Health Program Manager in the Global Health Unit of Global Ministries. I am a native of Mississippi, relocated to Atlanta 2 years ago, right around the same time Global Ministries did their transition to Atlanta. And during that time, I've always had a passion for faith, public health, and adolescent and child health as well. And so I stumbled upon this position with the General Board of Global Ministries, and I prayed about, finding a job or a career that merged all of my major passions together. And here I am right now leading the U.S. health component of the Abundant Health Initiative, and couldn't be more happier.
That's exciting. Tell me a little bit about you, Simbo.
So I am Simbo Ige. I'm a public health physician originally from Nigeria. And I started my journey in global health with Imagino Malaria as the senior program manager. And then I was tasked with the responsibility of helping the UMC find the next big thing in global health. So that has been a very exciting journey, trying to figure out what will resonate with the denomination, what will people want to see the church get engaged in. And as a physician, a public health physician, I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to have the church address spiritual, mental, and physical health in one fell swoop. And that is the opportunity we'll have here ahead of us with the Abundant Health Initiative.
Lots of times when we think about the church, physical health is not one of the things that immediately comes to mind. Sabrina, you talked about how physical health and the spiritual health come together. How do you think about those things?
I know for me, my faith helps me cope with different issues or circumstances that I encounter. And I find that to be true for many people. I'm a registered nurse by trade, and so during patient care, I found myself always, fellowshipping with the patients and other staff members when they had different health issues or concerns. It always came back to their faith, pray for me, or what can I do? I'm going to talk to my pastor, or my church has been my strength or my pillar as I've been going through this journey or this condition. And it always seemed to be something that was definitely an asset for patients that I've encountered. So I know they go hand in hand and actually improve, I think, the quality of life of some of the patients.
And people tend to think of spiritual health as different from physical health.
Yes.
And they're inextricably linked together. And I'll describe it this way. When you're stressed, when you have mental anxiety and emotional distress, it manifests in your body. And when you're a person of faith, your faith affects your beliefs and attitudes and helps you better able to cope with stress. So you see how everything is intertwined. When you have faith in God, it helps you cope with life's challenges, and that makes it easier for your body to cope when you're faced with challenges. And again, the church environment, for many people, people describe the church community like the extended family.
Yeah.
So having that network of support when you're going through a journey in health, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm trying to eat better, having that community of support reinforces our resolve, helps us along our journey towards health. So it is a very unique opportunity we have here to have spirit, soul, body, mind, body, spirit nurtured and cared for in one place. I think that's exciting.
It's a holistic approach.
Right.
And it's one that's deep in our roots as United Methodists. John Wesley was one who was not only caring for the soul, but was also caring for the body. One of his very early ministries was caring for people. And so I want to have a little fun with you guys before we get into some of the more serious stuff and take a look at what John Wesley wrote in his book, The Primitive Physique, which is subtitled An Easy and Natural Method of Curing Most Diseases. And most of us don't know about this book, but it was very, very popular in Wesley's day. I think it was his bestseller while he was alive of anything else that he wrote. And so he gives some remedies in there, and I wanted the doctor and the nurse can help us tell us if these are good or not. I'm guessing many of them are not, but I just want to run a couple by you and see what you have to say about them. One of his recommendations for a bee sting is to apply honey. Is there any medicinal value to that?
Yeah, we had some fun with this one. I think Sabrina has a story around this one.
I think honey, I've heard it helps with inflammation. So a bee sting, being that you have that inflammation, I think he may have been onto something with the honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to keep the
And
swelling down.
I'll say he's definitely onto something. There is a body of research that shows that honey aids with healing. So he's spot on with that one. I think that is still true today.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Good. That's good. I wasn't sure we were going to get anywhere with these, so we're already ahead of the game. For a headache, he says, rub the head for a quarter of an hour. I mean, you see people kind of like rubbing their heads. It seems to
Right.
bring some relief.
Yes.
But how about one of the other ones is apply to each temple a thin yellow rind of a lemon.
Oh, that that is a fun one. It is interesting. I mean, lemon headaches. Well, that is going to take some measure of faith, actually.
Maybe some aromatherapy. Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, if you really want to stretch it, you could say, oh, when your sinuses are blocked, you have lemon. It can help you free up your sinuses,
Could be a
decongest
sinus headache.
a little.
Yeah.
But to make a direct link will be tough. I mean,
Okay.
scientifically, I don't know that there is much evidence
Right.
to support that one.
Okay. Just a couple more. Heartburn, he says drink cold water.
We did a little research around that one.
But I don't think there's enough research.
We really couldn't say yay or nay. Acid reflux, there's a lot of acid in there. Will water put out the fire? We don't have enough evidence to say yes or no to that.
Okay. And he does at one point talk about drink slowly the decoction of chamomile flowers, which I don't know, is this chamomile tea that he's talking about? It's spelled a little differently than we spell it.
Right.
But that does have some calming effect, right?
It does, like anti-anxiety. It helps you rest. So again, I don't think it's been scientifically proven, but I don't know. Maybe
We're not recommending anybody try these, right?
Chamomile has some benefits for some other ailments, maybe not for acid, helping to de-stress, helping you sleep better, calming you, yes. But acid, not directly, I don't think.
Okay. And then for an earache, he seems to want to do heat. He does weird ways of doing it. But because one of the suggestions is to put a roasted fig or an onion in your ear, as hot as they can be, or to blow tobacco smoke into your ear. But
Yeah.
but does the
I
heat
mean,
do something? Is that what they're going for there?
the tobacco smoke, a big no, because exposure to secondhand smoke even has been shown to be related to more episodes of earache or otitis media. So I would say certainly
No to the
not try that
tobacco
one.
smoke.
Onion, Sabrina?
Okay. It sounds strange, and like I said, there is no scientific basis to this, but onions contain sulfur, and sulfur is known to have antibacterial properties. So
Yeah.
Wow, there might have been
I don't know,
something there.
John Wesley again. I don't know. He may have been onto something with
Yeah,
the onion.
yeah. All right, well, I'll give you the one that I'm pretty confident I can say has no merit whatsoever. And he says that for baldness, you can rub your head with onions and then with honey, and somehow that's supposed to make hair grow. You're not going to tell me that's possible, are you?
I am glad that you came to that conclusion by yourself, because I know how traumatized men can be when they start to lose their hair.
Yes.
And we really don't want to put anything out there that will further traumatize them. So
Okay.
we'll let that one pass.
Yes. Okay. All right. And so our big footnote there is probably not the best advice you're getting from John Wesley on how to cure things. But
The
he
onion
does.
in your ear, so.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, and maybe not the onion in your ear
Yeah.
either.
Okay.
Sadly, not hot.
He does though give other kind of on either end of this book. These remedies are kind of in the middle. There's a prologue and an epilogue that talk about ways to stay healthy, and I'm guessing this advice kind of holds up for the most part, some of the things he talks about. And so let me run some of those by you as well. On diet, for example, he says, all pickled or smoked or salted food and all high seasoned is unwholesome. That sounds like pretty good advice.
That is true. Gastric cancer has been linked to all of those things: smoked food, salted food, highly seasoned food, have all been shown to be linked to gastric cancer. So, in moderation, if you must.
Okay, good. So he was onto something there. He was a big fan of drinking lots of water. He says water is the wholesomest of all drinks. I think that's
Bravo.
Amen.
Yes.
yeah, that's pretty standard knowledge today. The one that hurts my feelings is he doesn't like coffee and tea. He says they're extremely hurtful to people who have weak nerves. I'm not sure what he means by weak nerves, but he kind of asks us to stay away from coffee and tea. And one I discovered.
Joe,
Sorry.
as a newcomer to coffee, there is some value in that. I mean, I didn't grow up drinking coffee at all. We're sort of tea drinkers in my part of Africa.
Oh, okay.
So my first exposure to coffee was right before a presentation. I thought it was going to help me.
Oh.
And oh my goodness, I was in all jitters, my nerves. So
It's a stimulant.
yeah.
Oh no.
There's some truth in that. If you're not used to coffee, don't go coughing.
Good. And then he says, I like this too, which I think is probably pretty decent advice even today. Eat light suppers 2 or 3 hours before going to bed. So in other words, don't go to bed full kind of thing.
That's sound advice, yeah.
Good. Okay. And then on exercise, he talks about exercise. He was a big advocate for walking. Walking is the best exercise, he writes, for those who are able to bear it, and riding for those who are not. And when he's talking about riding, I think he's talking about riding a horse. Yeah.
Yeah. And one reason why I agree with that is that exercises need to be consistent, need to be part of our lives. And a lot of people find it hard when they do something really unusual to stay with it. And walking is something that we can all stay with, that is easy to incorporate into our lives. So in that way, I will agree that is one of the best ways we can stay active.
That's true. Yeah, walking we can do while doing
Anywhere.
other things, kind of like, at all times. And then the other one, this one got me. I thought this was, because this seems to be pretty new advice. But he says, those who read or write much should learn to do it standing. Otherwise, it will impair their health. And now we have, like, standing desks or like a thing. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And
all of our desks here in Global Health, all standing.
Excellent. And this is 270 years ago. He was telling people to stand up and do their work. So
way before his time.
Good. So he may not have been great on the remedy side of things, but he did a little bit better with some of the some of the health advice. So
Right.
one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you guys in January is because lots of us make New Year's resolutions or just decide now is the time that we're going to start to get a little more healthier. And let's talk about some changes that we can make to be healthier in 2018. And if we start with diet, what are some kind of basic things that you would advise people do when they think about their diet in a new year?
Sabrina?
I would say incorporate more fruits and vegetables, those green leafy vegetables, making sure that when you sit down to a meal, it's very colorful, lots of reds, greens, and oranges. Just making sure you have a diverse plate and that it's healthy and nutritious. So yeah, I think that's a start.
Anything,
And
Manette?
if
Yeah.
you can also watch portion sizes, I think that's also
Hmm.
helpful. That's something everyone can relate to when you go out for dinner. If you want to, divvy it up into two pieces, have them take a takeout box for you, and then you eat the other half.
Yeah.
So you get to eat what you like, but maybe not as much of it as you want to eat at once. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And we touched a little bit on exercise. What are some things that you would kind of encourage us to think about as we think about exercise and getting more healthy?
Walk, walk, walk. Go 2 flights of steps if you can, and then take the elevator the rest of the way. If you're taking public transport, stop a bus stop before, walk to the water
Hmm.
dispenser 5 times instead of one in one big bottle. Take a little cup and go 5 times
Yeah.
rather than once a day. So easy ways to just sneak up a little exercise in there, and walking is so easy to do. Take your lunch break, take 5 minutes with a colleague, take a walk. Walk.
And setting realistic goals, because
Yeah.
sometimes we can be overly
Ambitious.
ambitious. And I've been guilty of that myself, where
Sure.
I'm going to go to the gym every day of the week and then I get burned out after day three. So just, finding out what works for you, starting slow and then gradually increasing so that way you don't become discouraged or burned out too soon and that you're able to gather
To
a
celebrate.
routine and
Yeah.
have a regimen. And it takes what, 21 days to start a habit. So we want good habits to start, healthy
Hmm.
eating habits, exercising habits. And so I think if you start slow and gradually increase things, you're more likely to stick with it.
Okay. And early on in the conversation, you talked about how being part of a church or being part of a group, like a friend group in your church, can really help with that.
There's something in all of us that needs a little encouragement
Yeah,
and accountability. We're more likely to stick with something when we have support of our family and those who are close to us to encourage us when we want to give up. And so having a walking companion, you're more likely to take those walks than if you decide to go it alone. And when you are in church and people say, so why don't we have this thing together? You celebrate your successes together, you encourage each other when you're slagging behind, and that's what the church community can do for us. People are a little afraid because they feel they will be judged, but I think that everyone in their little spaces have some struggles, and being able to encourage each other along the way, will fall, will get up again, and no judgment at all, but just having that, when the Bible says a cloud of witnesses, I think that's what the church does for us.
Yeah.
We surround ourselves with, good support.
And we kind of created this little game. Well, we didn't create it, but we shared this game with the church called Health Bingo or something like
Yes.
that. And so you have a gathering together and everybody plays bingo. And those that have, similar interests or similar bingos or whatever, like, okay, we match with walking. So all of those who had success or had stamps for walking, they would get together in a group and then they would form a walking group because most times we don't know our partners or church members who have similar interests. So Simba may be interested in walking, and I may be interested in walking, but I didn't know it. But now I know, okay, there's at least four of us that we can support each other with a walking group. So
Right.
finding out what the interests are of different members and coming together as a group is very beneficial.
One of the things that the United Methodist Church is doing in the new year, or has been doing, and is going to continue to do in the new year, is the Abundant Health Initiative. And both of you are involved in that. And so I'd like to learn a little bit about what all that entails and how I can get involved as a member of the United Methodist Church.
You already nailed it. I mean, we're Methodist in our DNA. We already have health as part of who we are. So, how do we continue to live into that reality? And one way we think of doing that is encouraging each other in our journey towards health. As a church, making a resolve to have healthier food choices when we have, how we Methodists love potlucks, how we love our casserole.
Donuts in the morning.
Right. So what if we have, healthy options there for those who struggle a little more with, their choices, and incorporating opportunities for us to be active. Some people have turned their basement into spaces where people can have gym. Some people have joint subscription in gym where church members can have discounted rates. Some people have prayer walks together. When the women's group come together, they decide to take a 5 minutes, walk together before they start their meetings. So people are using very creative ways to just incorporate some healthy choices into their practices in the church. And the reason why we're doing this is what we do best as a church is inspire each other to be better. And that's not just in spiritual development or in our relationship with God. We can also use the church community to inspire each other to do better in our health, to make healthier choices. And I think that is a powerful tool that we have in the church and that we're not always very conscious of.
If I understand this correctly, the Abundant Health Initiative, part of it is me and my own health, but it's also about the health of those around the globe. And so what are some of the things that are happening around the world that are really exciting, and what are some of the goals and things that we're trying to accomplish?
We have churches in the U.S. that are reaching out beyond their walls and going into their communities addressing those health concerns by partnering with local farmers markets for communities that are in food deserts, by the development of community gardens, teaching nutrition classes, all sorts of creative ways, partnering with community health centers to ensure that residents have access to health care and also fruits and vegetables through like not crazy, but I think it was very creative that Grow Harrisburg in Harrisburg, Augusta. Well, it's in Augusta, Georgia, but it's a community called Harrisburg. They partnered with a community health center and a local farmers market so that residents who go to the doctor and have high blood pressure or diabetes, not only do they get a prescription for their physical needs, but they also get a prescription for fruits and vegetables to aid them in healthy eating and thereby kind of reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes and things like that. Working with different farmers markets to double their SNAP benefits and things of that nature. So just reaching out not only inward, working with our congregations, but our communities as well.
That's exciting stuff.
Right. And another thing that's special to the United Methodist is the connectional nature that we have. Our network reaches beyond just our congregation to our communities to globally. There's United Methodist presence in over 100 countries. So how are we our brothers keepers? How is it that we're supporting each other? When the Bible says the head cannot say to the neck, I don't have need of you, or the neck to the hands. So there's some places where the health infrastructure is weaker. How is it that those of us who live in stronger health systems are able to support our brothers and sisters in those parts of the world that are still struggling? So we have opportunities to support projects around the world through, advanced projects. People have relationships across many countries where they're able to physically visit and accompany, fellow Methodists or sisters and brothers in their efforts to improve health in their community. And so these are all opportunities we have available to us as a church. And I'm hoping that in 2018, people can take more advantage of those opportunities just to show to the world that we're better together. When we come together and support each other, we make the world a better place.
And how can the individual person get involved? How do they get involved in these efforts?
Right. So on the Global Ministries website, we have the umcabundanthealth.org. The Global Ministries is leading this effort on behalf of the denomination, but every individual, every church, every conference has a role to play. And so we want people to sign up and say, this is how we can participate. We've looked at our churches, this is what is relevant to us, and for them to share their stories so they can encourage others to participate. One way that we're asking churches to do that, create some excitement, is what we call Hula Palooza. Bishop Holston of South Carolina has created some excitement around health. People don't really get excited about health. We've been there, done that. We're tired of making the resolutions. Yeah. What if we make it fun? And one way we found out doing that is when a bishop takes a hula hoop and spins around and
does a very good job at it.
Right. And gets his cabinet to do that, people begin to take notice and say, what's going on here, Bishop? And he says, well, why don't we start talking a little about health? And it sort of creates some excitement and helps people to talk about these things that we don't always feel comfortable talking about in a fun and engaging way. So that's one way in which churches can do that. Get the young people together to hula hoop and let's see who can hold it up the longest. And let's just have fun doing this.
Wonderful. And so we'll provide links for people to get on our page for umcabundanthealth.org. And I know there's some Hula Palooza stuff around. I know there's a video at least that we can link to get people to learn more about that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Right. So one of the questions I ask everybody who's a guest on Get Your Spirit in Shape is we like to give people some practices, some things that we can do to grow in our discipleship. And so what's something that you guys would recommend that people could try? Something that helps you stay in touch, keep your own spirit in shape? What's something that you would recommend that others try out?
There is a practice I've used in my own personal life that I recommend, and it shows up in the Bible in a lot of places. And it's the practice of meditation. Taking a favorite Bible verse, ponder upon it, mull on it, repeat it to yourself. It does good for your spirit. It does good for your mental health, and almost always will do good for your body. When you meditate, it helps you reduce stress. It helps you reduce anxiety. You feel more energized, you feel happier. And what if we do that with the Word of God? And take one or two, we have a lot of favorite quotes from famous speakers. But when the Bible says, do not be anxious for anything.
Yes.
And God says to you, I've got your back. And you just lie down and say, God's got my back. I will not be anxious for anything. It does wonders. And I think that's in Global Ministries, we do what we call breath prayer, just one phrase, and you breathe in and you breathe out. And I think that can be really powerful, as we go into the new year with all the anxieties and to just have a moment to just meditate on the Word of God and yeah.
Thank you. Sabrina, go ahead.
Yeah. Meditation, but not only sitting still and being quiet and reflecting, but walking. I think I do some of my best thinking and prayer time walking. And not only is it mentally cleansing and wonderful, but also physically for the body. Before I know it, I've walked like 2 or 3 miles, and I never intended on doing it, but just that reflection and going inward.
Wonderful. Well, I deeply appreciate having this opportunity to talk to you guys and share some of these things and laughing together and having some fun with these silly remedies, but also really getting some good information and having an opportunity to talk about some of the wonderful things that you guys are working on every day. And thank you. It was great to be with you.
Thank you, Joe.
That was Dr. Olusimbo Ige, Executive Director of the Global Health Unit of Global Ministries, and Sabrina Rodgers, U.S. Health Program Manager of the Global Health Unit of Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church. To learn more about the United Methodist Church's Abundant Health Initiative, John Wesley's health tips, and more, go to umc.org/podcasts and look for Get Your Spirit in Shape, episode 29. Also, please take a moment to review us on iTunes or wherever you download the podcast. Excellent reviews help more people find us. Thanks again for listening, We'll be back soon with more great conversations to help keep our souls as healthy as our bodies. I'm Joy Avino. Peace.